Hey everybody, it's Dustin again with the Webex Devices team. And today I'm excited to do a video talking about a new feature that we have that not many people know about, but it's called Personal Mode for Webex Edge for Devices. And I know that's a mouthful, but to kind of give a brief overview, to start, this video is going to be a little bit longer than most. So the front end of this is we're going to talk about the feature, talk about what it can do for you. And in the second half of the video, or probably two-thirds, we're actually going to go through the steps and set this up. So you kind of have a guide as to how to get this configured in your environment. Now, personal mode for WebEx Edge for devices, what is that? Well, if you're familiar with WebEx Edge for devices, what that gives you is the ability to be partly cloudy or cloud aware with the WebEx Cloud, but still maintain your existing call control in your on-prem environment. It's a very popular feature that we have, giving you a lot of flexibility. Cloud is great. Not everyone has a need to go full cloud yet. And at least with Cisco and WebEx, we give you the options to kind of suit the needs for your specific company or your enterprise. So there's plenty of documentation out there for WebEx Edge for devices. We'll actually be looking at the help guide page for that here momentarily. But essentially, you have your devices, you are on-prem, and you want to look at getting some, features of the cloud or start kind of dabbling with a migration to the cloud. Then WebEx Edge for Devices is for you. This allows you to link your devices to the WebEx Control Hub while maintaining your call manager, your VCS, call control infrastructure, everything that you're used to having, but still have a connection to the cloud to gain some of those additional features, such as hybrid calendar, WebEx Assistant, some analytics reporting, management, all kinds of things that are available to you, including cloud upgrades. So it's a really, really neat feature, and it's something that most organizations are going to do. Some are going to go full cloud, go all in, and do everything cloud. That may suit them, but it's still a great, viable option for a lot of customers. Now, that's kind of the base of this, and we're not going to go over WebEx Edge for devices too much. We've done other videos, and there's plenty of help documentation out there. But that's just a really brief high level overview. One of the limitations we had with WebEx Edge for devices, or not really a limitation, it's just really more of a feature that wasn't there that you have with full cloud, is this concept of personal mode. Now, personal mode is a great feature because when it comes to devices, especially if you're working from home or you go into an office and you have your desk device or your room or your office device, personal mode really makes that device personal to you. And essentially, what that means is that that device kind of assumes your identity. So now, whenever I do make a call, or whenever I call out, or someone calls me, my device will ring, or when I dial out, it comes out as my identity. So Dustin, my device in personal mode says my name at the top, and it has kind of my settings, my customization, set to it. Another nice thing about this is when you look at hybrid calendar, which is one of the most popular features that we have in regards to providing that one touch join or one button to push, as we call it. Whenever you go into personal mode, then all of your personal meetings, everything that you would get in the WebEx app or everything you get invited to that is joinable, you are going to get that nice screen one button to push on your device. So you don't have to worry about, knowing what meeting ID you're going to next or how to join or where it's at. You're just going to have that green button there. You're going to be able to see it, press it, dial right into your meeting. Well, that is a great feature, and it has previously, until now, not been available for people that were leveraging WebEx Edge for devices. So, what I'm going to do today is this is going to be a little bit more of I said, a longer video. Is we're going to actually go through and show the steps to get that configured. So let me go ahead and get started here. And I'll have plenty of links and everything and documentation to all of this in the comments below. So definitely let me know if you have any questions and whatnot, and we'll try to answer those as best we can. So um, kind of the start off here, the setup processes for this is, and I'm here right now on help.webex.com, and this is the help document for WebEx Edge for devices. And this right here will kind of help you get set up with WebEx Edge for devices. And this is something that you have to do prior to considering the personal mode part of this. So again, we've done videos before in the past where you can set up your devices. This is a help document which goes through exactly how to do that. Everything from all of the features that you actually get, with the CloudX API access, which is a huge one, some the ability to migrate to the cloud, some real-time metrics for some WebEx calls. This also allows you to opt into the WebEx optimized experience. We've done videos on that too, where you can still be on-prem, but you can have your WebEx meetings cloud-based. So you gain all of the additional cloud features there, whereas you can keep the rest of your calling on-prem and handled that way. Allows you to have support for the WebRTC for Microsoft Teams and the CVI integration to be more integrated. But you also get things like with Cloud Registered, you can get the Google interop that we have. So being able to join that as well. So a lot of advantages going with Edge. Um, But what we're going to do here is just kind of briefly go through this. Is just kind of talking about some of the prerequisites and things that you need to install and have, ready for you to do that. But essentially, you do need to get all your devices, or at least the ones you want to do Edge, and there's or personal mode. But there's really no reason not to do all of them because it's very small uplift and it gives you a lot of features with no risk or no real major changes to your environment. But you need to get all your devices moved over. So we're not going to go through that. We're going to make the assumption that you're already there, and that's where this video is kind of going to start. So if you have problems with that, let us know, or just go to these help center documents, and you should be able to get squared away. Now, as I'm scrolling down through here, one of the things that you'll see here is that we have this personal mode device section, and this is the part that we're actually going to focus on. So on this right here, you see how it talks about how we have an API which allows you to have what we call the Workspace Personalization API, which is now available. And this is what allows you to actually take this WebEx Edge device, which is in a shared mode by default, and actually personalize it to that user and get a lot of those same feature functionality that we were talking about earlier with personal mode. One of the things, or a few of the things that you have to know beforehand is that before you set up a device in personal mode, you got to make sure that the workplace is a single WebEx Edge for devices linked to shared mode device. Now, we just point that out because with full cloud, there is some capabilities of things like companion mode, whatnot. This is kind of a unique, not really unique situation, but we don't support companion mode with Edge. But just calling out that you have to have the device set up in Control Hub as a shared device with WebEx Edge for devices. Another key component to this is that it cannot have any calendars configured. And there's a kind of a simple reason for that. With WebEx Edge for devices and shared mode, you can enable hybrid calendar or room resource. And if you're familiar with how that works, essentially, if I go to invite or go to create a meeting and I want to invite a room, I invite that room, and that's what gives me that one button to push on that room. Because we're doing the personalization and we are using your calendar, we don't need or we can't will conflict with a room calendar. So you just got to make sure that there's no calendars configured. Good news is that's how it is by default. So you probably don't have to make any changes there if you're setting this up for the first time. We also have to make sure the device belonging to the workspace is online. So this is one of the things where you have to have the device online to make these changes. So it's not something that you can pre-populate. So you have to set the device up, get the device online, and then we'll go through the steps to get this personalized. One of the other things that's kind of a big is that cloud managed software upgrade is enabled. And the biggest reason for that, well, there's a lot of great advantages to that, but essentially you're allowing WebEx Cloud to manage the upgrades for this device, and as opposed to your call manager or manually doing it. And the reason for this is a couple reasons. Number one, it ensures that you're on the right version that will support this personalization because older versions will not. But number two, it also makes sure that if we do add some new features or there's changes, that you're automatically going to be upgraded to the version that's going to have those. So you're not left behind with any type of security patches or issues that may arise. So, a very important part of this to make sure that this continues to work well for you. Lastly, is WebEx Assistant Proactive Join is turned off on the device. This is really more of a recommendation, but the reason we do this is because in personal mode, that's how it's designed by default. If you have multiple meetings, you don't want the WebEx Assistant sitting here asking you every hour, every half hour as you get a meeting, do you want to have this join? So this is something that we typically have turned off, and this puts it more in line with the personal mode experience. So, kind of in a nutshell, these are the basic baseline things that we have to do to make sure that this is all set up and ready to go. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to kind of go through these steps, and I'm going to show you what we have available. So behind me, I've actually got a Webex desk and a Webex Desk Mini, and I will go ahead and bring over my trusty windows here, showing those in just a second. Let me get this together here. So this is my Webex desk, which I think you just saw light up behind me here. And then let me get my Desk Mini, and we'll go ahead and drag him over here too. So there's my Desk Mini, also lit up right behind me. So I've got my devices here. You'll see that they're shared devices. Now this one is registered to my VCS, and for my demo, I'm doing a VCS just simply because it's simpler. But this could very easily be a call manager. You'll see here that this has got a SIP URI, and this one right here, same way. I've actually got some extra things enabled on this one, the cloud proximity, which we'll talk about in a second. This one does not. That's why you don't get the. This is why this has the guest sharing available. This one doesn't. But we're going to kind of go through that and kind of show what you can do there. But I'm going to go to Control Hub now. Now in Control Hub, with all of these features, you're going to see that, or at least in this demo, I have got under Workspaces. I'm going to find my Webex desk here. So Webex desk shared. And you'll see here that this is my device. Now, this one is online and it is on-premise calling. So this right here has got my SIP address. This is letting me know that this is actually tied to my VCS, but I do have a presence here in Control Hub. One of the things that I can do to it now is I can actually go to the device. I have the ability to do things such as configuration changes. And I'm going to bring this up because there's a few things that I want us to make sure that we have set and configured before we do this. So one of the things that make this a better experience as well is we want to make sure that we have the WebEx optimized experience on. And we have done other videos on that as well, but this is essentially, and I talked about it a second ago, but what allows you to join WebEx meetings with the full WebEx experience. And we're just going to make sure that these settings and configurations are on. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go to my settings WebEx, and I am going to make sure that my cloud upgrades mode is on. Remember, we talked about that as one of the requirements. This is going to make sure that I'm getting upgrades from the cloud. Go back to my WebEx here. This is that cloud proximity mode that I was talking about. So on this one here, we have it turned on, and then the meetings join protocol. This right here is by default set to SIP, which is basically going to be for your WebEx meetings, which means everything will go through your VCS or your call manager. So every time I want to go to a WebEx meeting, it will actually go via SIP. But if I change this to WebEx and I save, and my devices went to sleep there, this will now update that device to WebEx, in which means I'll have some additional features and functionality, and I'll actually do a WebEx call directly to WebEx instead of going through my call manager or VCS to give me a better WebEx experience with all the extra features. So now I'm going to go ahead and close this. And I've got those changes done to this WebEx device. Now, the next thing I want to do here is just to make sure we're going to go ahead and show you the WebEx whoops, desk mini shared. And you'll see here, same thing. It's been online. It's registered to my VCS. I can. The other thing to notice here is there's no scheduling configured, so we have no hybrid calendar. Same thing from my desk. So both of those, again, part of the prerequisites have to be off. Go to my desk mini, double check my configurations. We're going to come down here to WebEx, and you'll see that cloud upgrades mode is on. I'm going to verify that I have cloud proximity on. In this particular one, I also have guest share set to auto. And then the meetings join protocol is set to WebEx. Okay, so I'm configured on my devices and I'm ready to go to start this setup. Now, I'm going to go over here now and go to developer.webex.com. And the reason I want to go here is because this is a great place for us to talk about and see the Workspaces API. So I'm logged in with my user and admin user on this particular org. And I'm going to go to documentation. And I'm going to come down here and expand my devices section and reference. Now, one of the things you'll see here is there's this new API documentation here called Workspace Personalization. And this is the API that we're going to be using to enable personal mode for the edge registered devices. So, a couple keynotes here is this is a one-time operation, and this is API driven. So there is no currently there is no web GUI or any type of control hub ability to do this. By just selecting personalization and selecting a user in. This is something that we expect a lot of people to want to do, but it's kind of a one-time thing. And this can be done from the developer web portal, which we're going to do today. But we also will have the ability to do some of this in Control Hub in the future with some other improvements, enhancements that we're doing with Control Hub. So this API basically just aids in this process of making sure this is being registered. One of the things here is that you'll see some of the prerequisites that we're talking about. Must not have any calendars configured, must be a shared mode device online, and then it tells you what requirements are needed for the user. So you need to have some admin device right access in order to be able to do this. So not just anyone could use this API. So one of the things here when I go to this API that you'll notice is that it's basically wanting to know the workspace ID, which you'll have to enter in, and we're going to talk about how to get that. In this case, I'm using my personal access token. And then for the body of this, it's basically the email or the user ID of the user you want to personalize this device to. So what we're going to have to do now is figure out where do we find this workspace ID. Well, the good news is that we have an API for that. So if you come back here and you go back to workspaces, which is right below the workspace personalization API, here's where we can get our workspaces. So with this one, and of course I'm logged in here, so I'm able to do everything from this web interface, which makes this a little bit easier. One of the easiest ways for me to be able to find this device would be to kind of add a query parameter to be able to shorten the number of devices that I get back from this search result. So if you'll see here, we've got our WebEx desk shared. Let's go ahead and I think I wrote one of these down already. I've already done that one, so I'm gonna actually go ahead and do the mini. So WebEx desk mini shared. So I'm gonna type in here WebEx desk mini shared as the display name of this particular device. And then I'm gonna run this API. And you'll see here that I get a response back. And you see that this is the JSON file, which has the payload that shows that this is my WebEx desk mini shared. This is the SIP address. This is the information. It is on WebEx Edge for devices. And one of the things you'll notice now is now I have this ID. This is the workspace ID that the personalization API is calling for. Not the org ID, but the actual ID that we have listed here. So I'm going to take and copy everything that's between the quotation marks, not including the quotation marks, and I'm going to paste that in my note over here. So I have got these IDs. I've got for both of them sitting here. They're shared. I have them on a little side note. So now that I have those workspace IDs, now I can quite simply go back to my workspace personalization. Refresh this page here. And I can go to do the personalization of my workspace. Now, one of the things I want to do first, though, is just to kind of show you a little bit about what we're doing here because we don't actually have this set up for. Let me go to my devices here. Let's see where am I at? Here we are, devices. All right, from where I refreshed. I'm going to do the get personalization task. So I'm going to go ahead and enter in the mini shared workspace ID. I'm going to run this, and you'll see that it's not found. So there's no workspace personalization available to this desk right now. So just going to kind of show you the difference between this response before and after we do it. So I'm going to go back to my personalized workspace API, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add in, oops, that workspace ID. And for this one, I'm actually going to give you, I'm going to give this one my user to be able to run this. Now, one thing to note is this has to be a user that is set up in Control Hub. It can't just be a random, email for someone in your org that Control Hub doesn't know about. So you have to have the user set up a control hub. They have to be available. And you'll want to have hybrid calendar set up for this user as well. So that way they're getting the full effect of how this will work. So I'm going to say run. And you're going to see here that I get just a regular accepted response. So let's go back now to my desk mini, and immediately you're going to see that this now has my name, and this is, instead of being the desk mini, whereas here we had the desk shared, this is now my device, which means that it's under my name. It's kind of registered personalized to me. And if I go back to run my get personalization task and I run that against the workspace ID again, you're going to say now that we have a success true, and that this actually is personalized. Now we're not giving who it's personalized to. It's just currently part of some PII type, just security things that we have. But at the very least, we know that this actually is personalized, and we know that this is actually done and it has been successful. If it wasn't, it would kind of tell us why it wasn't successful. So let's go ahead and do the same thing for my desk shared for another user. So I'm going to go back to personalize a workspace just to kind of show this again. And I've got my workspace ID for the Webex desk shared. I'm going to copy and paste that. Now, you don't have to use this developer portal if you're more familiar with something like CE Deploy or Postman. You could definitely do it that way, but this is just kind of an easy way to kind of visually show this and show what we're doing here. And this one we're going to put on, I have a user called Thanos at webexavengers.com. So you'll see here, Webex desk shared. I am going to run this API. You're going to get a 202 accepted. And if you come over here, you'll now see that this device belongs to Thanos. And you actually see automatically that this user has already got a meeting scheduled, and it's a test for Microsoft Teams. So this is actually an account we use. This worked out well. But immediately, once this became personalized, this meeting that was on this Thanos user's calendar is automatically coming up. And you'll see here that I'm getting my one button to push for that meeting. Now, when it comes to my personal one here, I'm going to go ahead and create a meeting on my personal calendar. And just bear with me as I get this going here. All right, I'm going to put this on my WebEx calendar. And I'm actually going to go ahead and invite Thanos. All right. So I'm sending that, and that'll take just a second going through my Apple Mail calendar. But once that comes up, actually, it's already come up. That was actually very quick. You'll see here that I have got personal mode is awesome. I just created this meeting. I also sent it to Thanos, and you see that this is a WebEx meeting. And I can just go ahead and I can join that meeting from here. I'm just going to go ahead and snooze this for right now. Snooze both of these. But you'll see that by putting these in personal mode, I now have the ability to access my personal calendar. I'm getting all of these WebEx invites, and any type of invite I have that has any type of meeting ID that we would be able to join. So whether it's a Microsoft Teams meeting, whether it is a Zoom meeting, for example, WebEx meetings, of course, or if I get one just to dial a SIP URI to some other device. The nice thing about this feature is in these particular scenarios, we do have that WebEx join feature. So we actually are going to be able to join directly to WebEx and have all of those additional features, including our join WebEx button here. For example, this right here is allowing me to go to my personal PMR room if I press it, but I could also enter in any other WebEx meeting ID and join that way. But the other important thing to remember is that I'm still on my VCS, or it could be your call manager for your call control. So being able to dial PSTN numbers or extensions, or being able to dial another SIP device that you have on your org, all of those calls will still go through your call control. The only thing in this particular scenario that will go directly to WebEx will be WebEx organized meetings, such as CVI or WebEx meetings, for example. So everything else that we do, Zoom to a Pexit bridge to another Cisco device or another SIP user, all of those will continue to go through your existing on-prem call control, your call manager, your VCS, and be routed the same way. So it's a really great feature that we have now to allow the convenience and simplicity and all the advantages of personal mode, but at the same time, you still get that call control that you have on prem. So let me look at my notes because this is a lot to go through here. I want to make sure that I have everything covered. There's not a lot to, there's a lot that you could definitely miss. I guess a couple things that I do want to make sure that you know is that with this, that one things, a few things that you need to remember is that you don't want to use this with the old hybrid calling, which is being depreciated anyway. So if you have had that set up before, you want to make sure you remove that. It needs to be removed anyways. We have some help documentation on that. Reach out if you have more questions there. But I just want to make sure we kind of pointed out that caveat, and then also, just to make sure that you know that this is a new feature that the APIs and everything we have available are GA. They're ready for you today. This is something that you can start working on and you can start doing. Um, However, if you have some suggestions for things that you think that might be easier or need to be explained better, please just give us some feedback down below, and we'll get back with you on that and see what we can do. So in a nutshell, again, this is a longer video, and I kind of went through this, in some detail. We didn't go into every detail about every specific thing that you need to do, and we are going to have some additional step-by-step documentation available for you. But I wanted to put this video out to help and kind of give you some tips and tricks on how to actually get through this process. But we're very excited for this feature, and I think it's going to be very popular. So again, comment below, subscribe to the channel so you can continue to get videos like this. And of course, if you have any questions, please, please, please just reach out. But thanks again, and we'll see you next time.